Hi everyone, this is Tom. Welcome back to the channel, and in this video I want to go through something called the adaptive revision schedule technique. And the idea of this is it's a way to organize your time and schedule in your study sessions so that you're covering everything ready for your exams. And you can apply this to pretty much any exam. Obviously, I come from a medical background. This is about medical exams. So for the examples and demos that I'm going to give you in this topic, it's going to be about preparing for medical school finals and covering medical topics for that. But it could be for any degree: engineering, accountancy, law, psychology, whatever you're studying. You can apply this, including to A levels. And I use this technique for my A levels and got 100% in quite a few of my A level exams. So it's a really useful technique. So let's make a note, as we always do on the iPad. This is the adaptive revision schedule. So firstly, let's look at what people do with traditional scheduling. So you may have come across this. You do this thing where you take a calendar and you say, okay, in 2 months, I have my exam. I have all these topics I'm going to cover. And then you put into your calendar, on Tuesday, I'm going to do cardiology and respiratory. On Wednesday, I'm going to do gastro and endocrinology. On Thursday, I'm going to do this and this. And you schedule that all out. So you put all the study sessions that you're going to do up until the date of your exam. So this is prospective. So you put everything in advance and tell your future self what to do on that date. Is fixed. So once it's in, that's what you're telling yourself you need to do. It's often unrealistic, meaning I've done this many times. You tell yourself, I'm going to do X, Y, Z on the first day, and then this, and this on the second day. And by the time you get to the third day, you're way behind schedule and the whole calendar becomes useless. So you often fall behind. So not a good solution. What's the adaptive one? So how does this work? I'm going to go through all the steps for creating this and how you implement it in a second. So it's flexible, meaning that you look back at what you've done and plan forwards from there, and you can make changes easily. If you miss a day, it's not the end of the world. It's completely flexible. It also makes sure you do spaced repetitions, which is great. You need spaced repetitions, otherwise you'll forget the stuff. You target your weaknesses. It tracks your progress. And ensures success, which is what we all want to happen. Ensures you do well on your exam day. So way better than your traditional schedule. So without further ado, let's start going through the steps. So step 1 of this process, and we're going to kind of demo these as we go. Step 1 is you list your topics. So you take your exam, you list all the topics you need to cover in that exam, and that's the first step. So there's a few more details to it than that. Firstly, you look at the syllabus. So you got your exam. Let's say your exam is medical school finals. You're going to sit finals in medical school, and you've got a bunch of topics. This is based on general medical school finals, the medical topics. And then you've got your topics down here. So cardiology, endocrine, gastro, respiratory, and so on. So you look at the syllabus from your medical school, make sure you've got the big topics. So cardiology, gastro, respiratory. They may have palliative care, they may have dermatology, they may have psychiatry. So you list all these topics. group the content into topics. So you group all the topics, the content, so you might need to cover sort of pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, abnormal vaginal bleeding, whatever these topics are, group them in, whatever these small topics are, group them into bigger topics. And each topic, one topic equals one study session. So you should, when you're preparing for an exam, group them into topics that you can study in one sit-down session. And this session should be 1 to 3 hours. So you should be able to cover a topic within 1 to 3 hours of work, sitting down and blasting through it. So then you should have a list of topics. So for example, let's do an example here. So this would be for medicine for finals. Okay, so this is our example. So we've now got a list of topics. So let's go through and make a list. So I'll stop there. So essentially you've got a list like this, and the list could be, 10 topics long, 20 topics long, 30 topics long if you've got a massive exam like finals, but they're all grouped into big topics. So this is the first step, create a list. Okay, then we move on to step 2. And step 2 is to create a tracking system. Okay, so there's a couple of ways you can do this. You've got 2 options. Okay, the first option we'll go through is to do a physical or a digital tracking table. So this is what I've used since my GCSEs. I've created a tracking table and used that in order to track my topics. So what you do is you create a table like this, and you have topics on this side, and then you have these are all repetitions. So this would be your study session 1, study session 2, study session 3, study session 4 on each topic. So you've got cardio, endocrine, gastro, ID, infectious diseases, and you do it that way. So this is your tracking table. Now, these spaces here, so when you study cardiology for the first time, you're going to be adding information to this box. So this is your first review of cardiology. And in this box, you're going to record several things. So the things to record are the date of the study session, that's number 1. You're also going to record the confidence you have, which would be low, medium, or high. So if you just did cardiology, that's basically the first time you've been through it and you're thinking, gosh, I got a lot of work to do on cardiology. There was a lot of stuff I didn't quite grasp, didn't quite stick. I need to go over that a bunch more times. I'm not so confident. Then you rate it as low. And then when you're ready for the exam, you rate it as high. Third thing is your practice test scores. So I need to make a video on and a demo on the testing sandwich. But essentially what the testing sandwich technique involves is first, when you come to do a study session, you've blocked 3 hours of time, you come into the library, you sit down, and you're going to do cardiology. So that 3 hours is dedicated to cardiology. First thing you do is start with a bunch of short answer questions to prime your brain, get you thinking about the topic, see what you already know. You do those short answer questions, then you record your short answer question score in that box. Then you come on to the study session, and I've done read and recall. So you basically go through the content. So if you're using the book, you would go through the chapter on cardiology in the Zero to Finals book. Then you do some multiple choice questions to apply the knowledge that you just accumulated, and to practice for your exam, because your exam's most likely an MCQ paper. So then you record your MCQ score. So in that box, it will look like this. When you sit down and do cardiology, you'll have the date. So let's say it was the 2nd of March 25. Then you have your confidence level, and you could even do a different color depending on your confidence. So let's say you've got medium confidence, so you put it in amber. Then your SAQ score, which would be, say, 45%. And then your MCQ score, which would be, say, 60%. So you now record in this thing your study session, and that will be in this box here, the first session of cardiology. Okay, so that's your tracking system. The other option is to use the Zero to Finals tracking tool, and I'll show you that now. So here we are in the Zero to Finals member site, and if we go to the tracking tool here, click on that, and we've got this, we can create a new exam. So let's say we've got medical school finals in here, and the exam is in a couple of months. And then we want to include all the topics that we've got on finals. So for the sake of this, let's just do the medical topics. And then we've got, we can add custom topics in here if there's one missing. So let's say statistics, and we add this custom topic, and then we've saved the exam. And now we've got your exam is in 9 weeks, and we've got all the study sessions included here. So these are all blank. This is the equivalent of those blank boxes to say when we're doing the study session. So let's say we studied cardiology and we had medium confidence, and our MCQ score was 36, and our short answer question score was 45%, the MCQ score was 36%, and we save that. Then we can see the study session here. But in fact, we don't need to put the scores in because it automatically pulls those through if you use the Zero to Finals site for recording those scores, or so for attempting the short answer questions and the MCQ questions. So then we see a cardiology session here. At an endocrine one, let's say that was a couple of weeks ago, medium confidence as well. Gastro session, low confidence, a week ago, save that. And then we can see our study sessions, and it changes the order of these study sessions so that your lowest confidence one and the one that you've done the longest ago will float to the top. So endocrine and cardio have the same confidence, but it's been a while since I've done endocrine, so it's floated up to the top. So that's your other option for using a tracking tool, and then you can keep coming back to this and record more sessions. So let's say we do another endocrine session. It's high confidence now, save that. You can see these two sessions, and endocrine has floated down to the bottom. So that's the other option for creating your tracking system. So as we said, the other option is the Zero to Finals members site tracking tool. So I've always used the table method, basically because the tracking tool didn't exist, but I knew it needed to exist, so I created it, and there it is for you to use if you want to. But by all means, use the table if that's your preferred option. Okay, then we move on to step 3 of the system, which is to block time and space to study. So, what do I mean by blocking time and space to study? Well, time is when you're going to study in the day. So, for example, and I would pick the peak time of day. So, choose your peak time. So, for me, that is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So for me, I'm very much a morning person. I like getting up really early, blocking time in the morning and using that time to study. So you're blocking that time. That's not for anything else. That's not for like admin tasks that need doing, housework that needs doing, anything else that needs doing. Even if something comes in that you need to address, leave it until later and use that blocked off time for studying. The other thing is you block space. And space equals where you study. So you want somewhere that has no distractions. So I like to work in libraries, coffee shops, sort of quiet places where there's other people around, but they're not going to disturb you. They're kind of strangers. They're not going to come and have a chat with you. I like to work somewhere that's not in my house, because when I'm in my house, I always find other stuff to do. I'm always distracted by something. So going to a specific place that is just for studying, or going to a specific place and blocking off a specific time to go to that place, that's how you get stuff done. That's what's made a huge difference to me. And what I would suggest is make this regular if you can. So you're not waking up in the morning and thinking, I wonder what I should do today. Maybe I should study. I'll see how I feel later on. Every morning or every sort of, say, Tuesday, I wake up and this is what I do that day. I sit down, study during that time. Because if you rely on how you feel, you probably won't feel like studying. But if you have a blocked time and space where you always go to study, you're much more likely to get that done. So have like a daily or a weekly routine. And that will help, make sure things happen. Then on to the next step, step 4. Step 4 is you start studying. So all of the time up to this point has kind of been preparing. And you'll notice we haven't even got a calendar out yet. We're not starting to schedule anything yet. All we've done is we've scheduled, when we're going to block time and space to study. And we have our tracking tool and our list of topics that we need to cover. We haven't started putting topics into days. So you start studying. One topic equals one session. So if you blocked 3 hours to go to a coffee shop and study at sort of 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, that time is blocked to cover one topic. So that's not going, you know exactly what you're doing. So one topic is one session. This is like 1 to 3 hours. As a general rule, some topics will take you longer, some topics will be quicker. And you use that testing sandwich, which I'll go through in detail in another video, but it starts with short answer questions to get your brain working, then the read and recall, and then multiple choice questions to apply that information. So short answer questions before you study the topic, read and recall to study the topic, and multiple choice questions to test you on that topic afterwards. So when you go to this coffee shop and you decide which topic are you going to study, start with your weakest. So say tomorrow morning, you are going to go to a coffee shop, or you're going to go to the library, or you're going to go to someone else's house where they've got a room you can use as an office, wherever it is. And from 9 till 11 a.m., you're going to study a topic, and you're trying to work out which topics to do. Look at your list of topics and decide which is your weakest topic and do that one first. This is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to go through the one that you're good at, but go for your weakest area first, the one that you hate. Go for that one first. And then after the session, you record it in your tracking tool. So you're recording the date, your confidence, short answer question score, and the multiple choice question score. That's what you're recording. Okie dokie. Next step is step 5, which is you complete your first repetition of all topics. Okay, so you've got your list of topics. You want to fill in every box in the first repetition before you move on to the second repetition. This is so that you've got a baseline across the entire curriculum. You've not missed anything out that's coming on your exam. So your first repetition of all topics is complete. What I would say here is aim for 1 to 2 topics per day. Your brain only has a capacity to remember a certain amount of information in a day. You will reach a limit. It's much better to do 1 topic a day for 7 days than it is to do 7 topics in 1 day and then go a week without any further revision. What really happens is between topics, that's where your brain digests the information, consolidates the memories, particularly while you're asleep, and starts to kind of subconsciously process that information. And so if you're spacing it out, not just spacing out when you do cardiology, but spacing out your topics in a more steady way rather than binging them and then not doing any revision. You're doing 1 to 2 a day. That gives you time to digest each topic, and you'll find that this kind of builds up over time and it gets easier and easier, even though you're doing newer topics. And then keep going until you covered everything once. Then we're moving on to step 6, which is prioritize your weakest topic for further repetitions. So you'll notice we haven't scheduled any topics in. All we're doing is scheduling blocks of time to do topics, and then we're doing the next topic on our list, the weakest first, as we turn up for that study session. So if you miss a couple of days where you're not doing any study topics, it makes no difference to your revision schedule because you're still just turning up and doing the next weakest thing. But when you've completed all of the first set, that first repetition of all the topics, then you arrive to do session 2 and you say, which topic should I cover next? Because I've done all of them once. You look for the one that you're weakest at. So this is looking at, so your next topic, when you come to sit down in the library and decide which one to do, is your weakest confidence and your lowest scores. So if you scored sort of like 10% on renal medicine and 90% on cardiology, the next topic to do is renal medicine again. The other thing to take into account is the longest since studying. So if you did cardiology, renal and gastro, medium confidence in all of them, scored about 50% in all of them, look at the one that you did the longest time ago. So if gastro was 2 weeks ago and cardio was last week, do gastro again. So this way you're scheduling, you're doing 1 to 2 topics a day, and those topics are the weakest or the longest since your last repetition. You can, it's worth noting, you can leave strong topics. The strong topics, you might not need another repetition on those. Say you go through a first repetition on all your topics. Cardiology, you're very high confidence and you score 90% on the practice questions. You may never need to come back to cardiology because all the other topics may be weaker than that, and they definitely need prioritizing above that. You would only cover cardiology again if you get all the other topics up to a similar confidence level or kind of nearby. Although it is worth doing each topic at least once every, say, 2 months if you've got an exam 6 months away, just to keep it fresh. But generally, prioritize the weaker topics. So let's have a look at this example. So you've got your tracking table like this. Topic 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got cardio, renal, resp. And this one is like 1 week ago, medium, 60% and 50%. This one is 2 weeks ago, high confidence, 90% and 80%. And this one is 1 week ago, low confidence, and 30% and 20%. So you've done all of the first repetitions of all of the topics. Now you're coming in to do the second repetition. And so you look at your topics and you say, you sit down and you think, which topic am I study today? You look at the first column here and you say, should I do renal? Well, no, I was quite high confidence on that. I'll leave that one. Should I do cardiology? Okay, medium confidence, maybe. Should I do respiratory? Low confidence and low scores. Today is a respiratory day. So you do that one today. This time you get medium confidence and you get 60% and 50%. Okay, so now you're doing better on respiratory. You come in the next day and you say, which topic should I do for this study session? And you say, okay, well, it's been a week since I've done cardio and I did respiratory yesterday. So let's do cardiology again. So you do cardiology today. This time you get medium confidence again, and you get 70% and say 60%. And now let's say in 1 week's time or 2 weeks' time, after you've been through some more topics, you're looking back and saying, which one should I do now? Should I do renal, which was 3 weeks ago, say, I got high confidence and high scores, or should I do cardio, where I got medium confidence and medium scores and so on with respiratory? Well, the next one to do is respiratory again. And this time it's the third session. So this is in 1 week. So this is you in a week's time looking back and what to do. So at this point, this is a week ago and 2 weeks ago for respiratory. This time you've got high confidence and you've got 80% and 70%. And next you look at what should I do next? Well, probably cardio. And then at that point, you might say, okay, I'm going to go back and do the second repetition of renal, or, do something else. But this way, what you're doing is looking back at your past results, choosing your weaknesses from your tracking tool and attacking those weaknesses with further study sessions. So you may go on to do, this next, then you might do this, then you might do this again, but there'll be sort of 10 or 20 topics, so it'll be a bit more complex than this, but this is just for a demo. All right, so we're almost there. Then we go to step 7. And this is watch your tracking tool grow. So at this point, you're just filling in all those boxes, going for your weakest area and the area that it's been longest since you studied before. So you keep doing spaced repetitions. So you're probably aiming for 1 to 2 reps per strong topic. So something like renal in the last example where you're very strong, you'd only need 1 or 2 repetitions of that before your exam. And then do 3 to 4 reps of weak topics. And that's what you're trying to get through before your exams. Then the next step, the final step, which I need to make a whole video about, which is rapid testing 1 to 2 weeks before your exam. And your focus is on weak areas. So 1 or 2 weeks before your exam, you have your essentially complete tracking table. And now you need a final push to get you from where you are now through the exam, make sure you've covered everything. So at this point, keep the tracking table, but stop doing these intense revision sessions. Instead, just focus on rapid testing to, Anki-like spaced repetition kind of testing. So what you can use is flashcards. So you've got the 0 to finals flashcards if you're studying medicine. You can use the fact trainer tool on the 0 to final site, which I'll show you in a second. And the other thing you can do is verbal testing with peers. So you look at your tracking table and you say, even after all those repetitions, I'm weak on this topic, which could be rheumatology. That's your weakest area. Now you go to the flashcards or the fact trainer tool, or you get into small groups and you test each other on your weaknesses. So this is just question after question after question, drilling those facts in. At this point, you've already done multiple repetitions studying the topic, so your basic kind of understanding and knowledge is there. What you need for your exams is just the really key facts to be embedded in. So here we are on the 0 to finals members site. And so if you're 1 to 2 weeks away from your exam, you've already done lots of repetitions of doing this testing sandwich, where you can use the short answer questions and multiple choice questions to do those, and the extended matching questions. Now you're just trying to test yourself rapidly. So you can use the flashcards. So you're covering medicine, put them in a random order, and just start doing rapid testing. So you've got this flashcards question on one side and then the answer on the other. So you just sit there and blast through these flashcards, testing yourself on all the topics. If you find it particularly weak, you can pin the flashcard and then you'll be able to come back to that one specifically later. And you just go through all these flashcards on particularly the weak topics. So let's say you're weak on cardiology, just do the cardiology flashcards and go through those and make sure you drill the key facts. The other option is the fact trainer tool. So this functions a lot like Anki, where you select your topic, say cardiology. You've got new questions to do, questions that are due review, questions that you review later, or you never want to see again. Start learning, and then you get questions like this. What might be seen on a blood test in pericarditis? So you could say, I think it's raised inflammatory markers. Yep, that's correct. So we got that, so it's easy. Let's just chuck it back a week. What are the criteria for diagnosing infective endocarditis? So it's the Duke's criteria. Check that. There we go, modified Duke's criteria. I forgot modified, so let's make it an easy one and see that question again in 3 days' time. What's the scoring system for whether a patient in AF should have anticoagulation? We'll say CHADS-BASC. Yep, nice and easy. I know that like the back of my hand, so I'll never see that one again. What's the usual drug for a pill in the pocket approach to paroxysmal AF? Oh, I don't know the answer to that one. Oh, fleckenide. Okay, I want to repeat that question. So click repeat. And then you've got, it just organizes so you know you've got 15 more to review. And you can blast these for the 2 weeks before your exams. And so that's the Fact Trainer tool. So hopefully that video was helpful. That video is all about creating this adaptive revision schedule as opposed to a fixed revision schedule. I would recommend implementing this because you can constantly adjust how you study things, what you choose to study based on how confident and how good you are at that topic. And then by the time your exams roll around, you should have high confidence on everything, and you should have really good short answer questions and multiple choice question scores. And then for the last week or two, you can just blast through questions and drill the key facts. If you want these, when I create notes that come up here, I've decided it might be useful to give you those notes so that you can just refer back to them. So if you want to download those notes, there is a link in the video description below. And to get those, you need to be a Zero to Finals Patreon member, but that gives you access to the member site as well. I hope that video was helpful. I really appreciate all your comments and some really great suggestions. Loads of videos to come in the future. And I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.